Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been talking a little bit of MIT's AppInventor2 with you. So far we built just one project, which I called the All-American or AA2. Alright, I'm about to start a second project, so I'm going to do start new project, and this is going to be the boy who called wolf, but instead of writing it all out, I'm just going to say BWCW, boy who called wolf. Alright, so that's going to be the project. And you can see we've got our familiar opening screen here. And what I want to do is, again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start with a layout. And again, a horizontal layout. I tend to use that quite a bit. And into that horizontal layout, I'm going to come in my user interface, and as we did previously, but this time there'll only be two of them. So I'm going to put a button here. And then I'm going to put another button right next to it. Right. Again, that you see the problems. You almost have to lay the button right on top of the other one. So I don't want this second one that I just put in there. There probably is a very simple way to move it around, but I haven't taken the time to try to find it out yet. So there we go. Okay, so this first button, in fact, let's do a couple things first. All right, first of all, let's take the first button here and let's rename it. Let's do everything with a button at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is rename this. And I'm going to call this BTN Wolf. No, I know, BTN, it's the wolf. BTN, it's the wolf. All right, so that's that button. Okay, so there it is there. I want to change the face or the text on the button to say it's the wolf with an exclamation point. So we've got that. All right. I'm also going to change the width on this, and I'm going to make the width 48%. All right. And I will, looks like I got a little bit of room there, so let's pretty it a little. So let's make it about 18 point. Looks like we can do that, and let's bold it. All right, now it stands out. You can pretty much see what's going on. Now let's go to the second button. We're going to change the name of that one, and that's going to be BTN Just Kidding. All right, we're going to do very similar types of operations. The order in which you do these really doesn't matter. So I'm going to change this text on here to Just Kidding. Okay, I think we made the font size 18, and we bolded it. All right, and let's also make the width on that, just like we did with the other one. We'll make it 48%. Now when you're doing this, you'll notice that you've got different choices. You can do automatic, which basically implicitly lets the system figure out how big something should be. Usually it'll make it as big as it needs to make it based on whatever it is it's trying to store there. With a button, it usually means that that'll be the size of the text that you put on the button. If I choose Fill Parent, it'll try to take up as much room in that area as it possibly can. And I can do that with a width, and I can do that with a height if I want. If I do pixels, your screen is made up of pixels just like your TV is made up of little dots. So we could do that too if we wanted to. I'm using percentages. So you'll notice that right now it looks pretty good. All right, it's not perfect at all, but it looks pretty good. All right. So let's come in, and now let's add an image. We haven't done that one yet. So let's grab an image, and we're going to do something a little different with this one. We'll call this, we'll give it a name, and we'll call it IMG, Boy Who Cried Wolf. Wolf. Alright, so there it is, IMG, Boy Who Cried Wolf. And we're going to put a picture there in just a minute. But before we do that, let's go and let's set the height. And now let's have it be greedy. And we'll choose Fill Parent. And please watch this right here and see how it changes. See that? That's how much height it's taking. It's as much as it can. And we're going to do the same thing with the width. We're going to set it to Fill Parent. And it greedily will take up as much of the rest of the screen as it possibly can. All right, now I want to show you, and there's different ways that we can do this, but to try to keep it pretty simple at least, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here and go to Google Images, and we'll put here The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And there it is, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And we could use virtually any of these we wanted to. Why don't we use this one? It looks pretty colorful. Now, sometimes you can have a little bit of problem in here, and what I mean by that is, well, you'll see when we get going. So I'm going to grab this, I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to save the image as, and I'm going to save it. I've got a thing on my desktop here. This is where I'm keeping everything. I've got an images folder, and you can see I already have a Boy Who Cried Wolf. So I'm going to change this to Boy Who Cried Wolf 2.jpg. 2 there. Come on, Jeff. There we go. All right, so now we have that. Okay, so why did I do that? Well, the reason I did that is I want to put something, I want that image to show here. So for the image, I want to go to Picture, all right, but I don't have any. So I can upload it. So I'll tell it to upload right here, choose File, and again, I have to go back to my desktop and where it was, which is here, and my folder that is here, which is right there, and under Images, and The Boy Who Cried Wolf 2. All right, so there it is. I click OK, and lo and behold, there it is. All right, now, kind of looks a little funky right now because I've got a lot of white space here and white space there. There's different things we could do. I'm not going to worry about that. That isn't what's important right here. What's important right here, in fact, if we go over to our emulator, that's the way it looks on the phone. It's not terrible, nice and colorful, all right, but there's probably sizes, and there's probably things, ways that we could manipulate this. Notice that there's a scale picture to fit. Now, you can make your own decision as to whether or not that looks better. It is taking up the whole screen, but it looks kind of out of focus. Tell you what, let's do it like that. We'll scale it like that. All right? All right. So now what we want to do is we want to go over, is it under medium? Yes. I want to go over and I want to grab a text to speech, because when we click this, we want it to say, it's the wolf, it's the wolf. And then when we click this, we want it to say, haha, just kidding. All right, we're going to let the computer do the talking for us. So it'll sound very much like synthesized speech, kind of phony speech. So we're going to use the text to speech. When I click this, you can put it anywhere on the screen, but it's going to appear down here because the text to speech is an example of something that's known as a non-visible component. So notice if I click it and put it here, there it goes. All right, we're done with our interface. So we just have to go to our blocks editor, and what we have to do is we have to let it know that when we click this button, that text to speech should say, it's the wolf, it's the wolf. And when we click this button, we should say, haha, just kidding. All right, so I'm going to go back into our blocks editor. There's nothing there right now. So we're going to put in first our it's the wolf button. Okay, click it. And what do we want to have happen? Well, again, we want to go to our text to speech, and with our text to speech, we want it to speak, and we'll give it a message in just a minute. So again, notice how it fits in here. You can even see the little yellow line. You can maybe hear the little click too when it comes up. So we want to give it a message. What is that message? Well, we want to give it some text. So I'm going to put in some empty text right here, and then come in here and put it in and just say, it's the wolf. It's the wolf. Now, it doesn't really do much of anything with inflection or anything, so putting it in capital letters or putting an exclamation point really isn't going to matter very much. All right, so there's that one. And now I'm going to, as we learned our little shortcut last time, I'm going to right mouse click and choose duplicate, drag down, and this time instead of the button, it's the wolf, we want to choose button, just kidding, and we want to change what we're going to have it say to ha, ha, just kidding. Okay, and that's it. So again, think about what we're trying to do here. We're telling the system that when we click the button that says it's the wolf, it should say it's the wolf, it's the wolf. When we click the button that says just kidding, it should say ha ha, just kidding. All right, so we're going to go back to our designer, and I'm going to bring up the emulator. It's right here. All right, hopefully you can hear this. Okay.
Just kidding. It's the willow. It's the willow. It's the willow. It's the willow. Just kidding.
So that's our second example. So what we learned in this example, a couple things that were different from the first one. All right, we again work with buttons that we put into a horizontal alignment. All right, but this time we filled up the rest of the screen with an image control. All right, and with that image control, we saw how you could size it and had scale it to fit, and you saw it both scale to fit and not scale to fit. And then we added a text-to-speech component. And with that text-to-speech component, we got the synthesized speech. I do want you to realize, notice there's pitch in here and there's speech rate. All right, and notice they're both set to 1. And I haven't done much playing with them, but let's try setting this to 3. All right, and let's see if there's any kind of change.
It's the willow. It's the willow. Just kidding.
Okay, not much I could tell. Let's try setting the pitch to 3 and see what that does. Again, you can see sometimes it takes a minute for the emulator to catch back up, so.
It's the willow. It's the willow. Just kidding.
So I'm not sure exactly what that does, but I know we can change the country. And for example, if we use ESP, that should put it in Spanish, I believe. Oh, running on the emulator.
It's the willow.
Nope,
It's the
it didn't
willow.
change it. I think there's other things that I have to change, okay? And again, not really worried about it. I do want to mention one more thing, though, before we finish up. So I'm going to go back again, and I want to change that, change it back to English, which is the default. All right, I think it defaults to whatever, country you're in. I'm not sure exactly how even that's done. All right, but you'll notice that I have changed the name of some of these controls and not all of them. I mentioned to you earlier that you cannot change the name of the screen 1 control, okay? And I haven't changed the name of my horizontal alignment. Later, in later programs, we'll have more than one horizontal alignment, and at that time I'll probably change the name. I like to change the name of buttons because typically Android AppInventor2 is one of the languages that's known as being an event-driven language. And that means is when something happens, the program responds to it. In this case, and in the previous case, what happened was the user clicked a button and the system responded accordingly. All right, so I think that especially things that are going to have code, or we're going to drag blocks into them, should have a name that reflects what they're trying to do. One thing that's nice about this is you can change names even after you've written the code, and it'll automatically update, which is a nice thing. Not all languages do that. The same thing with the text-to-speech. So notice if I had changed this from text-to-speech, if I had done a rename on here, and I'm going to change it to text-to-speech, I'm just going to say wolf. Okay, just that, and I'm going to click OK. And notice now when I go back into my blocks, see how I changed that already to wolf, here and here. And again, not all languages do that. That's a very nice feature to have. All right, so in the next program that I do for you, coming up shortly, I'm going to do the same kind of thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can change the way our buttons look, although they'll act the same way. And instead of using the text-to-speech, which is what we used here, all right, we're going to use some sound, okay? So I'll be back with that very shortly.